This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Koilel Avreichim here in Young Israel of Kew Garden Hills. Parshas Bechukosai. The pasuk in Bechukosai telecho. If you will walk in my statutes. There's a wonderful Medrash on this pasuk. Vayikra Rabba Parsha Lamed Hey Ois Aleph. Hada Hudachsev. Says David Hamelech, Chishavti derachai. I calculated my steps. Va'ashiva raglai el eidosecha. And I returned my legs to your commandments. Amar David, Ribono shel olam, b'chol yom v'yom hayisei mechashev v'omer. Every day, I would make a calculation and say, L'makom ploini, to such and such place I need to go. Ula beis dira ploinis, I need to go to this house. Ani hoylech. So every day David would calculate where he needs to go, what fields he needs to go to, which places he needs to go to. And even though he would make the calculation, but my feet would, so to speak, carry me to the Beis Midrash. This is what it means, and I will return my legs to your commandments. So let's get what the Medrash is saying. David Hamelech says, every day I would make a cheshbon. I must go here. I need to go there. I have to take care of this. I have to take care of that. And after making that calculation, David Hamelech's feet would just carry him not to this and not to that and not to there, but rather to the Beis Midrash. So I'm going to tell you two very beautiful pshatim in this Medrash. David, the king of Israel, besides all of his tirdos on behalf of the people, after all, there was no greater public servant than David Hamelech. He had to provide for all of Klal Yisrael. He was Melech Yisrael. He was nevertheless completely and wholeheartedly devoted to Avodas Hashem. His entire focus was to think, Makom ploini ula beis dira ploinis ani hoylech, to help Jews. These were not personal errands. However, these were what community responsibilities that lay heavily on the shoulders of David Hamelech. But nevertheless, you see, a public servant has to balance the two things: community obligation, community responsibility, but their own private obligations to Hashem. They still have to daven Shacharis with a minyan and come, daven properly and daven and be a mensch. And besides that, they have personal obligations to Hashem. They have to daven, they have to learn, they have to do all the mitzvahs that are incumbent upon every yachid. And very often those who have the responsibility of the tzibur, so to speak, get so overwhelmed and so dedicated to the tzibur that their own personal avodas Hashem falls by the wayside. So says Rav Yitzchak Petterberg, even after I calculated my steps in my avodah, in my communal obligation to Hashem, thinking, I need to go here, I need to go there, I need to help this organization and that institution and this moisad, I never exempted myself from my personal obligation in the Beis HaKnesses and the Beis HaMedrash. That's what David Hamelech means. Chishavti derachai. I calculated my steps, and I realized I have to do this for the tzibur and that for the tzibur. So very often we see people who are very dedicated to the tzibur, but their personal avodas Hashem suffers greatly. But nevertheless, David Hamelech never allowed his personal avodas Hashem to diminish in any way, and his feet would carry him to the Beis HaKnesses and the Beis HaMedrash. That's the pshat of Rav Yitzchak Petterberg, somewhat b'derech drush. In my yeshiva, the Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Henoch Leibowitz, and it's brought here in the Sefer Chidushei Halev, they dissected this Medrash in the style of Slabodka in a very analytical way. Let's get into the head of David Hamelech. If David Hamelech says, I thought about my path and I thought about my ways, and I decided and I calculated, I need to go here, I need to go there. Certainly if David Hamelech made that calculation, it was a real calculation, and he calculated correctly. Why? That means he calculated, I must go do chesed in this place. I must help out people in that place. After all, David Hamelech knew the halacha that even though Talmud Torah is the greatest mitzvah, nevertheless, if it's efshar al yedei achirim, if nobody else could help out the tzibur, help out the individual, you're obligated to take off time from learning to offer your help. Right? Chesed she'efshar al yedei achirim, you're mevatel from learning. So David Hamelech made a calculation, I must go here, I must go there. And did he end up going to these places? The Medrash implies no. But rather what happened? His feet carried him to the Beis HaMedrash. Well, in that case, he did the wrong thing. What do you mean his feet carried him? He made a cheshbon. I need to go here. I need to go there. I need to help people out. I have family obligations, personal obligations, communal obligations, simchas, and so on and so forth. He made an intellectual calculation. And yet, at the end of the day, David HaMelech says, my feet carried me to the Beis HaMedrash. Well, then his feet carried him to the wrong place. What's going on over here? Did David HaMelech do the right thing, or did David HaMelech do the wrong thing? If it's recorded in Tehillim, we have to say David HaMelech must have done the correct thing. Well, but how could it have been the correct thing if he calculated he needs to go here and he needs to go there? So the Rosh Hashiva of Henoch Leibowitz explained as follows. Very often people make calculations, but they're wrong. Why are they wrong? Because people have negiyos. I calculated I have to help these people out. How did you make that calculation? Sometimes, because I like to do that. I like to help people out. Or, I'm lazy, I'd rather not learn. Or, personal reasons, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Not every calculation is a legitimate one. And ultimately, David HaMelech is saying, listen carefully, I made a calculation, I sat down, and I tried my hardest to figure out what the right thing to do, and I calculated that the right thing to do is not to learn. But ultimately, I went to the Beis Midrash, and I didn't go to where I calculated I need to go. Why? Because my feet carried me there. What does that mean, my feet carried me there? That means we learn from here a very important thing. And that is, it's not enough for a person to intellectually know what the right thing in life is to do, but a person has to train themselves to be naturally inclined to try to do the right thing. Not just to make a thing, learning is an important thing, so I'm going to try my best to learn. Because if you just have the intellectual decision that learning is important, sometimes you say, yeah, learning is important, but right now I'm going to make a decision it's more important to do chesed. And that's not always the right thing. Sometimes someone else could do it. Sometimes it is efshar idechem. Sometimes there are other ways that it could happen, and you need to be learning. The only way sometimes you'll end up doing the right thing is if you're naturally inclined to do the right thing. If you develop a cheshek and a taiva that I like to learn, I'm going to learn, not only because I've decided intellectually that's the right thing to do, but I enjoy it. It's like my natural default place to go. This way, even in situations where the Yetzer Hara has persuaded you that you might need to do X, Y, and Z, your feet will carry you to the right place. That's the pshat in the Medrash. Raglai mevios oisi lebeis hamedrash. So we said,
but Rabbi, if his feet carried him, but didn't his brain tell the feet to go? So he obviously recalculated in his head.
Right.
Because his feet went to the Beis Midrash.
The answer is the fact that he was naturally drawn to the Beis Midrash allowed him to recalculate and to say, Taka, that's where I need to go. Right. So had it not been for his natural inclination to the Beis Midrash, he never would have recalculated. It's only because he was naturally inclined to go there that he was able to rethink his original decision and instead calculate that he needs to go to the Beis HaMedrash. So that's the Medrash on this week's Parsha. On Bechukosai Telechu Hadu Hudachsiv Chishavti Dorachai V'Ashiva Raglai Alei Doisecha.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.